The QSMP was the first ever multilingual SMP, featuring creators from multiple countries such as the US, Spain, France, and Brazil. During its short 14-month lifespan, the server amassed dozens of members before shutting down in May 2024. While most of these streamers turned out fine, some weren't as lucky and faced allegations of abuse and other inappropriate actions. This is what happened to the QSMP's members. Let's begin with Phila, one of the server's initial English-speaking members from the UK. Phil joined the QSMP on March 22, 2023, the day of its launch, alongside 15 other creators. He adopted an egg with Misa Sinfonia, which they named Cheyenne on the server's adoption day. By the way, the egg was named Cheyenne because Misa is a fan of the Puerto Rican singer with the same name, who also happens to be Lella Pons' uncle. I figured I'd throw that fun little fact in there. Regardless, Phil is active on Twitch and has recently uploaded new YouTube videos after a 5-month-long hiatus. Dan TDM was another of the server's first English-speaking members from the UK who only played on it twice, during its first and 13th days. During his brief time on the QSMP, Dan captured a pink sheep and adopted an egg with Maximus, which they named Trump. I didn't know Dan and Maximus were MAGA supporters. Kidding, that was a joke. Don't destroy me in the comment section, please. After these 2 days, Dan never logged back onto the SMP and was declared dead on its 227th day. He's mostly active on YouTube and recently started hosting a radio show on Classic FM called Next Level with Dan TDM, where he talks about video game soundtracks. Dan even brought back Dr. Trioris on a new channel last year, which was not on my 2024 bingo card. Please make another one of these videos, Dan. It's been 6 months and we can't wait any longer. Charlie, or Slimesicle, was an English-speaking member from the US who joined the QSMP on its first day. He adopted an egg with Mariana and they named her Juana Flipa. Unfortunately, Mariana accidentally killed Juana Flipa shortly after she was adopted and a funeral was held for her, if you can even call it that, although she later came back to life. Charlie also had a shape-shifting power which he used to turn himself into a green egg named Geg and get adopted by Quacky. Additionally, Geg unsuccessfully ran for president as he was killed during the campaign, resulting in the end of his candidacy. Charlie is active on all platforms except Twitter. He's also one of the Just Roll With It hosts, a D&D podcast he's part of with some of his friends. Jaden Animations joined the QSMP on the day of its debut as another of the server's English-speaking members from the US. She built her home in La Ciudad del Sacapuntas after Wilbur invited her to live there with him and Charlie on the first day. Jaden adopted an egg with Royer and they named him Bobby. Sadly, Bobby's life was cut short as he passed away soon after his adoption due to server lag. She paid tribute to Bobby by building a rose field in a home called Bobby Fields. Jaden is mainly active on YouTube and recently used the $700,000 she won in the MrBeast Cube Challenge to pay for some of her viewers' art degrees, which is truly amazing. Do you know what's also truly amazing? Dropping a like on this video and subscribing to my channel. Thanks. Peter, also known as FitMC, joined the QSMP as an English-speaking member from the US on its inception day. He and Spreen adopted an egg, which they named Ramon. Fit built a gym called Fit's Fitness and spent much of his time on the server working on it. He's primarily active on Twitch. Daryl, better known as Bad Boy Halo, was an English-speaking QSMP member from the US from its beginning. He adopted an egg by himself and named him Dapper. Bad co-founded the Ordo Teoritas organization alongside Foolish and Maximus, which other members like Selvet, Phil, Fit, and Jaden later joined. He mainly streams on Twitch nowadays. Noah, or Foolish, was one of the QSMP's original English-speaking members from the US. He and Vegeta adopted an egg, which they named Leonardo. However, it turned out that this egg was gender fluid, so its name was changed to Leonardo. Foolish later became the server's king of capybaras, ran for president, joined the Federation, and founded the town of Phobo with Tubbo. He's primarily a Twitch streamer. Ivan, also known as Spreen, joined the QSMP as one of its first Spanish-speaking members from Argentina. As previously mentioned, he was Ramon's other father, along with Fit, and he wasn't a good one at that. He hardly logged onto the server and eventually left to buy cigarettes before permanently abandoning the SMP. That's a tale as old as time. On the QSMP's 227th day, he was deemed dead alongside Dan TDM. Spreen is mainly active on YouTube, Kick, and Twitter. Ruben, better known as Rubious, was a Spanish-speaking Spanish-speaking QSMP member from Spain since the start of the server. He was the SMP's angel who could change the time and weather. He could also fly. Funnily enough, he wasn't just the QSMP's angel, but also its devil, who had the same powers as the angel. Rubious is primarily active on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. He also got his own Fortnite skin a few months ago in September. Borja, or Luzu, was another of the QSMP's initial Spanish-speaking members from Spain. He and Quacky were Thilin's parents. There was also an AI named Aaron that would periodically take over Luzu's body, using it to speak to the other players. Luzu mainly streams on Twitch and uses Twitter. Sebastian, also known as Royer, was a Spanish-speaking member from Mexico who joined the QSMP on its first day. He established a restaurant called Taqueria El Tripon, where he sold tacos and built the Base Guapita transmission tower with Selvet for the Ordo Teoditas organization. Speaking of Selvet, Royer married him during his time on the server. He's active primarily on YouTube and Twitch. Samuel, better known as Vegeta, was one of the QSMP's initial Spanish-speaking members from Spain. He was a dancer at the Las Casualonas nightclub named La Mamada de los Dientes. For those who don't know, that means blowjob with teeth. Ouch. Vegeta also adopted Royer after his egg Bobby died. He's active mainly on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube, where he recently had his 13th anniversary, so happy belated anniversary to him. Angel, or Misa Sinfonia, was a Spanish-speaking QSMP member from Mexico since the server's inception. He and Phil built a house for their egg, Cheyenne, called Casa Bonita, which means beautiful house in Spanish. Misa also had 2 wolves, Woof, and Ay Ay Ay, who unfortunately died. He's active mainly on YouTube and Twitch, and recently fulfilled one of his lifelong dreams, singing on stage at a concert. Maximus, also known as Agente Maxo, joined the QSMP as one of its initial Spanish-speaking members from Spain. He created Sophia, an AI inside a supercomputer, after being instructed to do so by a mysterious agent. Max built the supercomputer in a hidden room within the Las Casualonas nightclub, and eventually introduced other players to it. He's active on all platforms except Instagram. Max also released a free-to-play psychological horror game called Terroro on Steam last October. Osvaldo, better known as El Mariana, was one of the QSMP's first Spanish-speaking members from Mexico. He wanted to suicide bomb and kill everyone at Juana Flipa's funeral. Yeah, this server's lore was pretty crazy, to say the least. Mariana is active on every platform and was the 3rd most viewed Mexican content creator in 2024, even more watched than their current president. At this time, I'd like to provide a trigger warning for those sensitive to the upcoming heavy topics like grooming, essay, and other serious subjects. Please feel free to stop watching the video. I completely understand, and I want you to take care of yourself. Francisco, or Forever, was a Portuguese-speaking QSMP member from Brazil from April 30th, 2023 until his eventual removal from the server. He came up with the idea for the Morro do Cheire favela and the Copacabana beach, which was inspired by the real one in Rio de Janeiro. Forever also adopted Richarlison with his fellow Brazilians and remained as his parent until he was kicked off the SMP in early January 2024. On January 5th, the burner Twitter account posted a damning 174-page document exposing Forever's alleged predatory behavior towards his underage fans during 2016 and 17 when he was 20 and 21 years old. The doc contained countless tweets of Forever's inappropriate interactions with some of his underage fans. He even met up with one of them in person, although it seems like they didn't engage in any sexual activities. On the same day as the document's release, Forever deleted over 900 of the damning tweets and addressed the allegations on stream. He claimed that his accusers were taking posts out of context to defame him and threatened to sue the individuals who had released the doc. The document was updated the following day with even more damaging evidence against Forever, as a fan told the burner account that he had allegedly had a sexual relationship with a minor. However, that accusation has no solid proof to back it up. Forever discussed the allegations again on stream that same day, where he doubled down on the lawsuit threats and stated that all of the problematic tweets he made were simply jokes. 4 days later, on the 10th, Forever uploaded a video announcing that he had been removed from the QSMP and responding to the allegations. He reiterated that all the tweets were jokes and denied having any sort of relationship with his underage fans. The teenage girl he had met up with was just a friend of his, and the two never had sex. Forever also stated that he deleted the tweets to avoid being cancelled again for those old posts. However, it's important to note that he did apologize for his wrongdoings and seemed genuinely regretful. But despite the solid response, Forever's reputation was irreparably damaged and there was no coming back from this. He left the internet after posting the video and hasn't returned since. Alex, also known as Quacky, was the QSMP's English and Spanish-speaking founder and owner from Mexico from its beginning to its end on May 24th, 2024. For some time, he had a brother on the server named El Quacky, who spoke only Spanish while he spoke only English. Quacky was solely responsible for his child dealing, as their other parents, Luzu, was often absent. However, the child eventually lost their first life due to parental neglect and lost their second and final life when Slimesicle accidentally killed them. But Dealing was revived for one day, unlike the QSMP, which hasn't been brought back since it ended in late May 2024. You see, hosting the QSMP wasn't without its problems. When Quacky announced it, Dream revealed the United SMP, a server with the same premise as the QSMP. The idea of these two SMPs coexisting created tension between Dream and Quacky's audiences, leading to threats and doxing. One fan took it too far and placed trackers on Dream's family's cars. This controversy also caused tension between the two creators, first in private and then in public. Dream went to Twitter and posted a lengthy thread about the controversy surrounding the SMPs and how Quacky ghosted him multiple times. Quacky never answered Dream and the drama ended. But a much larger scandal for the QSMP came in March 2024 when some of the server's volunteers claimed they were underpaid for their work. On March 3rd, former helper Leah tweeted, "Imagine having the first multilingual Minecraft server in the world and paying your employees 150 euros per month and threatening to sue them if you dare to complain. You signed an NDA. If you speak out, we will sue you." Additionally, Leah alleged she worked all day, every day for 4 months before she was let go. She then posted some artwork she had designed for the QSMP and stated she wasn't paid for any of the drawings. Leah published a follow-up thread explaining why she was fired. During a stream, APR leaked my name and they saw that I was talking to him on Discord, something forbidden. I was therefore accused of leaking things because on the screen I was talking to him about the server's DDoS. An investigation into me followed, which I said was useless because I had nothing to hide at all anyway. We weren't allowed to communicate with CCs off stream, but everyone does it. I was just seen doing it, so I was fired for not following the rules. She included a screenshot of a Discord message that read, "We found out that they've been using their friends and contacts from the studio to purposefully cause them to break rules and get them sanctioned." Other former helpers quickly supported Leah and shared similar experiences. However, shortly after her tweets, Leah's credibility was questioned when Jay, a QSMP staff member, published a statement that addressed and refuted many of her claims. Additionally, Solidaires Informatique, a French IT labor union, got involved in the controversy. Mathis, one of the organization's representatives, said they had been in contact with Leah and some other QSMP voluntary workers for a few days and that Leah had been working full-time hours, around 35 hours a week. According to French law, we claim Leah should have a classic employment contract with minimum salary and all French social rights. The union asked for testimonies from individuals who had worked as helpers for the QSMP and posted a statement to start a strike. They wrote, "There is confusion between paid and volunteer workers. It seems hard to consider all Quacky studio workers to be anything but regular employees, with all the rights conferred by the status of a salaried worker." While an internal investigation about the accusations took place, the company's representatives announced a restart, sidelining the volunteer workers. According to French law, such job cuts are regarded as unlawful dismissals. This sidelining can be considered to be moral harassment. Quacky claims to have solved the problem by firing the manager who drafted the initial company statement, which he declares not to have approved. But the others responsible for these inexcusable work conditions are still in place. These are sufficient grounds to consider legal actions. To avoid it, we invite Quacky to be proactive by opening a social dialogue with all their workers. A negotiated outcome remains possible. It will need to address monetary demands concerning work already performed, and that to come. Solidaire's Informatique posted another statement the following week, revealing they had been unable to contact Quacky and encouraged him to take action to resolve the issues at hand. The union threatened to sue Quacky's studio if he couldn't address its internal problems. Quacky did a stream stating he would no longer be involved in the QSMP's administrative process. He also said the server wouldn't end until his plans changed. On May 24th, Quacky did his final stream on the QSMP, thus signaling the end of an era. Despite that unfortunate situation, Quacky is doing pretty well, and wait, what the hell is that? Holy shit, the QSMP is coming back. I can't believe it. Well, I hope this video isn't obsolete now, because that would really suck. Rafael, better known as Selvet, joined the QSMP as one of its first Portuguese-speaking members from Brazil. He granted Quacky 1% parentship of Richarlison and was the mastermind behind Project Immortalison, an endeavor to make Richarlison immortal. Selvet also conducted several investigations on the server, one of which was for the Federation itself. He's mainly active on Twitch, Twitter, and his VOD's YouTube channel. Selvet also released a paranormal investigation game called Enigma of Fear on Steam last November after developing it for years. However, not everything was going well for him over a year ago when an ex falsely accused him of SA. In February 2024, Selvet's ex-girlfriend, Flavia, indirectly alleged that he had SA'd her with this subtweet. "I really wish you'd stop reliving a sexual assault I suffered with no concept of things as if it were funny. Unfortunately, I thought it was normal to feel pain and I was under a lot of pressure to feed his self-esteem publicly, so I talked shit thinking I would please him. Shame on you, bunch of imbeciles." Not only that, but she had repeatedly accused him of abuse throughout the years with no response from Selvet. The SA allegation was the straw that broke the camel's back, which prompted him to fire back. On February 13th, Selvet posted a 23-page response to Flavia, revealing many personal and sensitive details, ultimately debunking the allegations. He started by denying the SA accusation and stating that his ex had cheated, lied compulsively, and deceived him throughout the relationship, in addition to trying to ruin his life on multiple occasions after they broke up. Selvet then discussed his asexuality, which Flavia didn't understand, and she felt that there was something wrong with him. She'd humiliate Selvet among their friends and would constantly ask him to undergo medical examinations and treatments in an attempt to fix his asexuality. Flavia regularly obligated Selvet to have sex with her even when he didn't want to until she felt satisfied, and then would leave him to finish on his own. He feared that she'd cheat on him if he didn't comply. Flavia would even publicly share details about their sex life to pressure him into receiving treatment for his asexuality. Selvet shared his traumatic SA experience that took place when he was 9 years old at his neighbor's house. His neighbor's older sister got naked with him and they rubbed each other, pretending they were having sex. He said he wouldn't be able to SA someone because of his asexuality and the abuse he suffered as a child. He met her when he was 18 and she was 20 at a gaming convention in 2015. Selvet had never dated, whereas Flavia had dated several men before him. When the two started talking, Flavia was dating someone else, but she assured Selvet that she planned to break up with him soon when the right moment came. Flavia asked Selvet to travel to her city to meet her, and they stayed together at an inn. At the inn, Flavia cheated on her boyfriend with Selvet as the two had intercourse. It was his first time and she frequently complained about his performance, even joking about his inexperience. That was when Selvet started understanding that he was in fact asexual. But despite the awkward experience, they kept seeing each other for a few more weeks while Flavia continued making excuses as to why she hadn't ended things with her boyfriend. She eventually asked him to help write her boyfriend a breakup message so they could have a real relationship. Unfortunately, Selvet didn't realize what he was getting himself into. He had fallen in love with a girl who was lying to and manipulating her last boyfriend while simultaneously doing the same thing to him. Some people who knew Flavia warned Selvet of her cheating nature, and he was left traumatized by the entire situation. But they continued dating long distance for some time and eventually moved to the same city in different apartments. She lived with her sister and he lived with a few friends. This is when they started seeing each other more often and the relationship became much more toxic. There was one incident where Selvet caught Flavia cheating on him with an ex of hers that she had described as an abuser who used cocaine, sexually harassed her, broke into her house, threatened to kill himself to be with her, and whom she had even called the police on. Flavia had told Selvet she had no contact with him. However, these were all lies. She had been messaging this ex and talking to him about potential eventually getting back together, even though she was dating Selvet. He confronted her for cheating on him and asked her to leave his apartment. She began screaming and crying, then pushed him, slapped him in the face, and locked herself in the bathroom, refusing to leave. Flavia would regularly hit Selvet, something he believed was normal. Despite that, he never once laid a finger on her. Selvet knocked on the bathroom door, told her to grab her stuff and leave, but she declined again. He took her backpack and put it in the building's garage so she could take it when she left. Years later, Flavia heavily distorted these events to make Selvet look like an evil abuser. He woke me up angry because I had told a friend that I couldn't talk to him anymore because my ex was jealous. Then he kicked me out of his house barefoot and threw my things in the trash in his apartment. After this, the couple split up for a few months while still keeping in touch and occasionally seeing each other. They eventually got back together and the relationship only got worse from here onwards. Flavia continued to lie compulsively and had increasingly violent outbursts, many of which were in public over minor inconveniences. Aside from this, Flavia blackmailed Selvet, claimed that he wasn't a supportive boyfriend, and made him believe that he was dependent on her. He ended the relationship in 2017 after 2 years of suffering. A year later, Flavia continued speaking to Selvet while in a relationship with another influencer. She said she still loved him. The former couple even had numerous conversations about the relationship where they apologized to each other. Yet Flavia kept going after him over the years and even brought up his suicide attempt as a way to vilify him. He ended his response by stating that he would sue those who spread lies about him online and encourage people to draw their own conclusions about the situation. Selvet kept his word and sued 217 Twitter users for spreading the false allegations, resulting in these accounts taking down their defamatory posts. Flavia wasn't among those sued, as she uploaded a response video to Selvet weeks after he posted his statement. She accused him of being a liar, manipulative, controlling, and obsessive. Flavia also denied cheating on him and revealed that the alleged abuse she had faced caused her to develop anorexia. She said that Selvet isolated her from her friends and that he was her owner, not her boyfriend. Flavia denied mocking Selvet for his asexuality or forcing him to undergo medical exams. She even said that they would often have sex that would last up to 40 minutes, which would cause vaginal lacerations. All in all, this was a he said, she said situation, and the two clearly had an extremely toxic relationship. I can only hope that they've both improved as individuals and healed from their respective traumas. William, or Wilbur Soot, was one of the QSMP's first English-speaking members from the UK until he was eventually booted off the server. He founded La Ciudad del Sacapuntas and adopted Tallulah, who was left in Phil's permanent custody when Quacky banned Wilbur from the QSMP after allegations of abuse from 2 of his exes came out against him. The first accusation came from Shelby on a February 21st, 2024 stream. She alleged that Wilbur physically abused her by regularly biting her until she bruised. She said that she didn't have any problems with the biting when it initially began, but Wilbur accidentally bit her too hard multiple times. These frequent and accidental bites hurt Shelby, but Wilbur seemed remorseful every time he hurt her and even made a safe word she could use to get him to stop biting her. Wilbur could learn her limits with the word, but ultimately the word didn't do much to prevent him from biting. He'd also bite Shelby's hand in front of their friends as a joke since he seemed to find it funny. She'd tell him to stop biting so aggressively because it hurt, and Wilbur didn't care. Instead, he'd say she was being dramatic. Shelby started bruising from all the biting and was covered in them, which Wilbur also found amusing. He'd poke her bruises and show them to their friends. But miraculously, he eventually realized that the bruises made him look bad. So to fix this, he began biting Shelby's legs instead, every single day. She attempted to make him stop, but she couldn't, as he just told her that's who he was and he wasn't going to change. Wilbur stopped apologizing to Shelby for hurting her and would bite down harder or grind his teeth on her skin whenever she said the safe word. The abuse weighed heavily on Shelby's mental health to the point where she constantly experienced physical symptoms such as gagging, nausea, and vomiting. Apart from the biting, Shelby claimed that Wilbur was a compulsive liar who lived in filth with ant infestations and prioritized money and fame over their relationship. Wilbur started resenting Shelby, which prompted her to break up with him. She talked about more of Wilbur's abusive behavior on stream, but never explicitly name-dropped him. But she gave sufficient details to give the audience audience an easy time determining who the abuser was. The two biggest hints were the ant infestations and biting, which Wilbur's friends had previously discussed. His apology, which he posted a few days later, was seen by many as one of the worst responses to such a damning allegation. The lack of accountability, Shelby's name, and the words "I'm sorry" weren't a good look. He came off as a narcissist who downplayed the severity of his misbehavior. The apology didn't benefit him in the slightest, and most people were disappointed, including Shelby, who posted a response a few days later. She called the apology self-centered and said that she had no issue with being bitten. The issue was being hurt. Shelby said that Wilbur's vague apology was very disrespectful, but leaving out her name was even ruder. Wilbur never responded to any of Shelby's later statements, and the situation only worsened for him when Alice, his other ex, spoke out against him. Her story was very similar to Shelby's, as she talked about biting and Wilbur's manipulative behavior. But she also alleged that Wilbur got her blackout drunk and took off her clothes without her consent on one occasion. He didn't respond to Alice's accusations either, and at this point, his reputation had been destroyed. Months later, Wilbur posted an Instagram story on June 8th, where he briefly discussed the allegations. The community wasn't happy to see him return, and Shelby even talked about it on a stream. She said that Wilbur hadn't been regularly attending therapy and that the Lovejoy band members didn't care about his inappropriate actions. He'd allegedly lied so much to his therapist that he had to start over with a new one. Shelby also made it clear that she wouldn't forgive him. To make matters worse, Rue, Tommy and its former roommate, accused Wilbur of grooming her earlier this year in a TikTok stream. She said they initially met when she was 17 and had a sexual relationship with him when she was 18. Rue also stated that Wilbur used his age and power to manipulate her. She described him as a controlling person who would disturbingly refer to her as his little sister. Yikes, I didn't know Wilbur was from Alabama. Good lord. Like Shelby, Rue didn't explicitly name Wilbur, but shared enough clues to give it away. He never responded to these allegations either, and has continued to make music to a much smaller audience despite all the scandals. And that's what happened to some of the QSMP's most important members. Many are still active and successful, while others ruin their careers with misdeeds. It'll be interesting to see if some of these creators return for what seems to be QSMP 2, and how the new server differs from the first one when it starts later in May.